Good evening viewers and welcome back to Media Scan, your weekend dose of headlines, controversies and perspectives. The situation in Afghanistan was all over the media through the week. From reporting about the fast deteriorating situation on the ground to media persons themselves coming under attack, it wasn't easy for anyone. Though the media's challenges pale before the tragedy that the Afghan people are compelled to face. We will discuss those issues and what it means for India. But first, what made news? India's concerns about terrorism following the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan was articulated in very clear terms by External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar at the United Nations Security Council this week. Jaishankar underscored that the UNSC cannot afford to be complacent when the Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed are openly threatening peace in the region. The minister pointed out that just as in COVID, in terror also, nobody is safe till all are safe. Government of India is leaving no stone unturned in ensuring the safe return of Indians stranded in various provinces of Afghanistan. In a daring evacuation fraught with many risks, the government managed to bring back its diplomatic staff, their families and many others who managed to reach the embassy in Kabul. The 200-odd people who returned included few media persons also. The MEA is working round the clock to ensure the safety and return of remaining Indians still stranded in the war-torn country. The Calcutta High Court ordered that all cases involving heinous crimes such as rape and murder during post-poll violence in West Bengal must be investigated by the Central Bureau of Investigation. For other post-poll cases, the court constituted a special investigation team comprising 3 IPS senior officers. The High Court bench made several scathing observations about the way complaints were brushed under the carpet by the state police and even FIRs were not registered. Except a few, most people arrested in connection with the cases had already been let off. While the BJP welcomed the order, Trinamool Congress leaders tried to play it down as a routine legal matter. Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched an ambitious revamp plan of the Holy Somnath Temple in Gujarat this week. The projects include a Parvati Mandir, a new Somnath Promenade, an exhibition center and restoration of the old Juna Somnath Temple. Addressing the event, PM Modi said, those who attempted to destroy the ancient Somnath Temple are the same people who are bent on imposing their violent ideology on the world even today. In a landmark order, Supreme Court has allowed women candidates to appear for the National Defence Academy exams. After awarding permanent commission to women, this will serve as another milestone in pushing up the participation of women in our defence services. The heads of the 3 services have already started working upon the modalities to implement the historic order. So those were the headlines throughout the week. But if I can say there was one headline which dominated the entire media space in the global media as well as in our country, it was the developments in Afghanistan. Viewers and readers and social media followers were shocked and worried as visuals unfolded about what was going on in the war-torn country of Afghanistan. Young men falling dead from flying airplanes, desperate women, children, men rushing to Kabul without food and water, and the sheer desperation of young mothers who chose the impossible choice of giving away their toddlers to American soldiers just so to ensure that they did not have to grow up in the dreaded Taliban rule. In the midst of all this, viewers, there are still some activists, commentators, even journalists who try to act openly as apologists for the Taliban. And yet some others are those who try to draw false equivalences with the politics of India just to further their petty political agendas. To understand all this, I have a very special panel of guests here with me. Let me introduce my guests for the evening. I have here with me Colonel Danveer Singh, a veteran of the Indian Army and now a defense analyst You have been reading him and watching him on television, social media regularly, a strong social media voice and a man who is known to speak his mind. Welcome back to Media Scan, Colonel Danveer Singh.
Thank you, Smita. Thank you.
I also have with me senior journalist, well-known social media voice and hardcore news reporter, Aarti Tikku Singh. You have met her on Media Scan on earlier occasions, and I like to compliment her for starting a new media venture, The New Indian. Welcome back to Media Scan, Aarti, and compliments for your new media venture. I hope you go very far in your new entrepreneurial effort.
Thank you, Smita. Thank you so much for the compliments. And I must say that it is a huge honor to get compliments from you on DD News.
So with an ACE News reporter and a defense analyst here with me, I hope we shall be able to understand along with our viewers the complex and sensitive nature of developments going on in Afghanistan vis-a-vis the media. I would like to come to Colonel Danveer Singh first. And Colonel Singh, my first question to you is very simple and direct, sir. Are you satisfied with the coverage that you are following in the Indian media and the global networks? Do you think the enormity of the humanitarian crisis that is unfolding in Afghanistan, our media is able to do justice to it? Are we getting the true pictures? And also, sir, very briefly, if you can explain to our viewers, what should be in the sequence of 1 to 3, the biggest concerns for an Indian and the Indian government at this point, seeing the developments in Afghanistan? Colonel Singh.
Yeah, very firstly, I would like to say that I generally follow the print, and I very seldom watch the television, so I may not be able to comment on what our television media is showing. But yes, when I talk of print, yes, a lot of coverage has been given to the crisis, and there is a special focus on the humanitarian aspect of it. Strategic analysis may not be that widely covered because it's a very complex subject, and I believe people have not been able to address it in that manner as far as Indian media is concerned. I think it is because of the appetite of the consumer as well, which is to be catered for when you talk about such complex subjects in a medium where it needs some kind of a popularity and the other aspect. Well, so that is as far as media is concerned. Now you have asked me a very important thing, that what are the major concerns for India when it comes to Afghanistan? So one is, of course, the immediate concern is evacuation of our men over there. That is
right.
The immediate concern. And by the time you air this program, maybe those guys who are stranded over there, 220 of them sitting in the buses, would be evacuated. So that immediate concern should get addressed by this evening. Now, coming into onto the larger issue. See, there was a time when we were supporting the Northern Alliance with Russia and with Iran, and we had a sway in Afghanistan, especially the northern part. And subsequently, after the Taliban rule ended, we were there prominently and very strongly in Afghanistan. So now our footprint has just been erased from Afghanistan. We will not have any Indian sign over there, which should be disturbing to everyone, because not only you are losing your footprint in Afghanistan, but you are losing a very important strategic foothold.
Colonel Singh,
the change has taken place?
On that point about India not having the kind of say and influence in Afghanistan anymore, as we had been doing by contributing to their infrastructure growth and their overall development. I'll come back to that point, sir, because I have also read a lot is being written and spoken on this aspect. But please allow me to bring in Aarti Tikku here, so we can have her perspective as well on the situation. Aarti Tikku, as I was just saying in my opening remarks, there is an effort by some apologists to try to paint the Taliban in a new color, saying that the Taliban has now reinvented itself, whereas the developments in the last 2 days make it very clear that the cruelty and the ferocity of their behavior, there is no change in it. And yet we have apologists trying to prepare a case for the Taliban, and some have gone even a step further and trying to draw equivalences with what is happening in the country, making false equivalences about a Hindu Taliban and India doing the same thing in a different way. I read pieces in the NYT, in the Washington Post, in our own social media posts. How do you look at this entire thing? You are a ground reporter. You have seen things unfolding as they are. Do you think there is any justification? Is there any case to draw such equivalences, Aarti?
Smita, this is a very valid question, and we really need to reflect on the kind of reactions we are getting from some of the intellectuals in India over the developments in Afghanistan. And it's really tragic that some sections of Indian intelligentsia are apologizing for a hardcore Islamist terror group that is Taliban. Anyone who has any illusions that this Taliban is different from the Taliban of 1996 to 2001, which used to stone women to death for very petty crimes, which used to cut the wrists and hands of people for stealing and for theft. If anyone has the illusion that this Taliban is going to be different, then they are hugely mistaken. One, because Taliban fundamentally believes in the implementation of Sharia law, and they believe in establishing Islamic State in Afghanistan.
Right.
So if you want to understand what that means, then you have to first understand the Talibani version of Islam, which is the Deoband version of Islam. They have been practicing the laws under which women have hardly any rights, under which minorities have hardly any rights. If Taliban was such a progressive force, and if Taliban was very different from the Taliban of the 90s, then you would not be seeing the videos and the pictures of Afghans, the Pashtuns, running away from Afghanistan at this moment. You would not have been seeing women crying and pleading American soldiers to rescue them and take their children on board.
Very true, Aarti, but allow me to interrupt you here for a very brief supplementary. You have explained how people in Afghanistan are trying to run away. If the Taliban 2.0 that people are defining today was such a great thing, the people who have been residents there from centuries, why would they be fleeing, even risking their life for it? However, we have seen, and you know who they are, we have seen celebrated poets, well-known columnists, commentators, social media voices, and even people who served the Indian government for many decades, trying to explain that India must start talking to the Taliban. We have to recognize them as soon as possible. It may not be as bad as it is being projected. Very straight, in a very straight manner, Aarti, what do you think prompts them to take such positions? I can understand there is politics, but is politics so important that one can be ready to suggest such suggestions which is fraught with so many dangers? What is it in their mind?
Well, clearly they are not working in the interests of this nation. Out of their hatred for the current regime, the current government in India, they are making absurd comments, or they are making absurd false equivalents with Taliban. For example, I saw some of, what you referred to,
yes,
some of the comments, some of the tweets, reactions, equating Taliban with the RSS or with the BJP government or with Hindus. Now, you have to be completely illiterate, uninformed and ignorant to draw that kind of an analogy. Because at the end of the day, look, Taliban was the biggest supporter and ally of Al-Qaeda that perpetrated September 11 attacks, terror attacks in America, killed 3,000 innocent civilians in America. Taliban today is giving shelter to Hizbul Mujahideen, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, the same terror groups which were responsible for thousands and thousands of killings in Kashmir, in Mumbai
Okay,
terror attacks.
allow me to stop you. Allow me to stop you here, Aarti, because I want to bring in Colonel Singh here, because you have mentioned something on which I had interrupted Colonel Danveer Singh's argument. So I want to, take up from there. Colonel Danveer Singh, you were talking about India's biggest concerns in the situation that is unfolding. And Aarti has raised a very, very serious and sensitive point. There are reports in the international media from Kabul and other cities that, what they call the fighters, the terrorists of Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Haqqani network, they are all freely being seen on the streets of Kabul and all Jalalabad and other cities. So very clearly, we know what is going on there. Concerning from India's standpoint, what do you think needs to be done at this point diplomatically, strategically? And do you agree with some commentators who said that what has unfolded in Afghanistan is a clear message that Pakistan has won and India has lost?
See, we have to understand that this complete operation of Afghanistan or Taliban 2.0 has been conducted, supported, guided by the Pakistan military and the Pakistani establishment, the Pakistani state. So if you look at it from that point of view, yes, Pakistan has succeeded, and it's not a praise, it's a matter of shame. It's a matter of shame.
Do we have evidence to make such a statement, sir, that it is actually Pakistan which is completely behind what happened in Afghanistan?
Whole world knows. Don't you know that? Don't you know that? Everybody knows that how they have been supported. You tell me, okay, when we are discussing this, if I have to go from Noida to Delhi, I require to burn fuel. But say if I have to go from here, fill my tank and go right up to say Jaipur, I may require a refill some point or refuel my vehicle. So who was refueling these Talibani fighters all the way from Quetta through Kandahar till Mazar-e-Sharif? Who was assisting them in Herat? How did they reach Kandahar? Were they owning the petrol pumps? Who was giving this logistics? Americans were providing the logistics, or it was some divine power that was filling up their tanks, because we saw them that they were all moving in pickup trucks and motorcycles. This is a very basic, simple thing that I have told you, and which goes to say that there was something absolutely institutionalized when it came to supporting these terrorists logistically. And furthermore, who was bringing their casualties back? Why were they being treated in Pakistani hospital? One of their ministers said that the casualties of Taliban are treated in the best of the hospitals in Pakistan. So who was bringing them from there into Pakistan? So this is part of logistics. And of course,
so therefore, sir,
the
next obvious question is, since we know that the Pakistani establishment is completely behind what is unfolding there, and China has been very quick to, give a message that they want to work with the Taliban regime. So under those circumstances, with China on our eastern side and Pakistan on our western side, what are the options left with India, sir?
See, India is still absolutely very strong and firm. We still have good relationship with Russia and the Central Asian republics. We just need to refocus ourselves, rebalance ourselves. And I think the best information coming out of Afghanistan is that there is a resistance movement under Amrullah Saleh that is developing, and Rashid Dostum is also joining Amrullah Saleh with around 70,000 troops that he has been able to muster over past 10-15 days. So if this is true, then I think India needs to put its weight behind this resistance, because idea of India cannot be supportive of Taliban, because idea of India basically clashes with the idea of Taliban. And if we start supporting the idea of Taliban, then God save this country. I mean, we have not been formed based on those kinds of credentials and such kind of laws and rules. Today, Smita is anchoring the show. If we start aligning ourselves to Taliban, then Smita would not be anchoring the show. So I think it is absolutely not acceptable.
Thank you for putting it so clearly for our viewers, Colonel Singh. And I want to bring in Aarti Tikku here quickly because I have very little time left with me this evening. Aarti, Colonel Singh has been very upfront in telling us that if we start supporting a rule like the one that the Taliban seems to be, then we also have to be conscious and mindful of the fact that what kind of a country, what kind of a society we will be inviting, whether it is in our country or in anywhere in the world. As a news reporter, Aarti, what do you think is the best way that journalists who are being targeted, they are being beaten, there are reports of attacks everywhere. What do you think as a news reporter is the best way to tackle the situation that has unfolded there? And particularly vis-a-vis the Indian media, how should we go ahead with this situation? Because we really don't know which way it will go. Even though Colonel Singh is quite hopeful that the forces led by Amrullah Saleh, and we have reports that they are now advancing. Panjshir has not been conquered by the Taliban. What would you say is the best option for an Indian journalist, and what should be the true line?
Smita, Colonel Singh is absolutely right. Our vision and philosophy is that of democracy, and that too a democracy that believes in pluralism, that believes in diversity, that believes in peace. So we have absolutely no common interest with Taliban whatsoever. Our outlook, our vision, our philosophies don't match. That is number one. The second issue is that Afghanistan, in the last 20 years, America tried to democratize it. America tried to build institutions of democracy in Afghanistan. Today, those institutions are in tatters because the world community has abdicated its responsibility. The Biden administration has been completely callous in leaving Afghanis, even innocent civilians, stranded and under the dreaded oppressive regime of Taliban. So from my perspective, the international community has to come together. The United Nations must intervene. There has to be a United Nations peacekeeping force which will strengthen the democracy that America and NATO forces were trying to build. You cannot live a huge section of the earth in such a dire situation where ordinary humans, civilians are really suffering. Look at the women, look at children, look at minorities, Sikhs, Hindus, they are all fleeing. So I believe that the United Nations must come together, and the Biden administration needs to really review its own position, because you see, the US Taliban peace agreement was dependent on certain conditions. Taliban has not kept its word. It has not kept its side of the commitment. And therefore, the Biden administration had no reason to go ahead with the peace agreement because there is no peace. This is a dreadful situation, and the people who really are responsible for it is, of course, Pakistan Army. You were asking Colonel Singh, what is the evidence? Well, to begin with, Pakistan Army facilitated the peace talks, the so-called peace talks between the US and Taliban. And also Pakistan was the first country, in fact, perhaps the only one of the three countries that officially recognized Taliban in 1996 when they took over the country.
So I think, Aarti, I'll have to cut you short here because I've completely run out of time. But viewers, isn't it ironical that while we are watching the situation in Afghanistan, there are elements within our country, certainly in the global media, but we must not forget the fact that the people writing in the global newspapers and Western media are actually Indians. They are not people who are part of the global society. They are Indians writing columns there who are trying to draw false equivalences. While you have just heard our guests Aarti Tikku and Colonel Danveer Singh trying to explain what kind of a strategic challenge we are about to face with Pakistan on one side, China on the other, and Aarti is strongly believing that the global community has completely abdicated its responsibility. But on that negative note, on that disappointing note, I would like to echo Colonel Danveer Singh's views that there are elements of hope coming out from inside Afghanistan itself. if we look at the situation in Panjshir. More than that, I would look at those brave women who are coming out on the streets of Jalalabad and Kabul. They are very few in number, but they are daring to fight back the Taliban, which the Afghan forces failed to do. So maybe we will have a better discussion on the same topic. I know it's a large subject. We have tried to pack in as much as possible, and one of these weekends we will have our guests over again to go further on the situation, and we hope we get better news from Kabul and elsewhere in the meantime. With that, viewers, it's time to thank my guests for the evening, Colonel Danveer Singh and Aarti Tikku, both of them for joining us for such a lively and enlightening discussion. Thank you, Colonel Singh. Thank you, Aarti.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
And with that, I have to wind up Media Scan this evening. But please keep watching DD India as we continue to scan the media for you. Good night.